everyone, let's talk about speech perception. What is speech perception? Speech perception is the process by which the sounds of language are heard, interpreted, and understood. This study related to the field of phonology and phonetics in linguistics and cognitive psychology and perception in psychology. All of you must be wondering why we should learn about speech perception. Speech perception will explain how listeners combine the continuous speech signal into something meaningful, referred to as the segmentation problems. Next, understanding how listeners could recognize particular speech sound even though they are spoken by a different people and occur in different contexts. This is a visualization of Cappert's 1950 model speech perception. At first, from selection turned into execution, and the transmission of context turned into identification and the interpretation to a listener. Next, let's learn about speech perception mechanism. Speech perception mechanism is designed to overcome the variability and lack of discreteness in the speech signal. Listeners can fine-tune the perception to control for speakers' differences and quickly adapt to foreign accented or distorted speech. There are 4 mechanisms, which are normalization procedures, categorical perception, stress and intonation, and lastly, lexical access or word recognition. The first speech perception mechanisms that we can use for understanding distorted speech is normalization procedures. Listeners just need to hear 2 or 4 lines of distorted speech to generalize and readjust to terms they have never heard before. It will take some time to become used to accents from non-native speakers. For example, this video shows that the singer cannot pronounce "going crazy" properly because he is a Korean English speaker. This mechanism enables the listener to understand regardless the speaker or speech rate. The listeners can work around the lack of invariance issue by utilizing a variety of auditory cues in the signal and connection between distinct audio components. Next, we have categorical perception. The units we understand depend on the languages we are familiar with, particularly their phonemic repertoire. Speakers' perceptions are aided by knowledge of the underlying classification method, which causes them to perceive physically different stimuli as belonging to the same group. This video is an example for categorical perception. The pronunciation between the native speakers and non-native speakers is different.
Volvo,
Volvo,
BMW,
BMW,
Volkswagen,
Volkswagen,
Lamborghini,
Lamborghini,
Maserati,
Maserati, Maserati,
Mercedes-Benz,
Mercedes-Benz,
Tesla,
Tesla,
Hyundai.
Hyundai,
What? Audi,
Audi,
Audi.
Audi.
Stress and intonation. Stress and intonation can cue synthetic constituent in the speech stream. The different meanings of each sentence can be detected by their stress pattern. Remember, stress tone only work on vowel and not on consonants. One word can only have one stress tone. Word stress rules. There are 4 word stress rules. The first one is stress on the first syllables for nouns and adjectives. Secondly, we have stress on the last syllables for verbs. Third, we have stress on antepenultimate syllable. And lastly, we have compound words. Let's go through to the word stress rule. The first one is stress on the first syllables for nouns and adjectives. The first syllable of the word will be pronounced with a stress tone. This rule only works on nouns and adjectives. For example, teacher, anywhere, table, highly. Next, we have stress on the last syllable for verb. The end of the syllable will be pronounced with a stress tone. This rule is only for verbs. For example, relax, direct, pitu. No. The third rule is stress on the antepenultimate syllable. The stress tone only works for the third syllable from end of the word. For example, critical, nautical, allergy, geography. And lastly, we have compound words. There are 3 types of compound words. For compound nouns, the stress is on the first part. Compound adjectives have the stress tone on the second part. And lastly, for the compound verb, it has the stress on the second part. The last speech perception mechanism is lexical access or word recognition. The process where the listener will receive information about the meaning and the syntactic properties from their mental lexicon. Listeners will use their lexical knowledge to recognize words in the signal. It depends on the word's frequency of usage, which is the terms that are used more frequently receive responses more rapidly than uncommon words. The longer time taken to respond, the more processing involved. The speed depends on the size of the phonological neighborhood that the word has. Phonological neighborhood is the list of words that have similar phonology with the target word. The larger the neighborhood, the longer it takes to retrieve the word. There is a resting level of activation for each word in the mental lexicon, with some words being more active than others. The frequent word used, the higher resting level of activation. The listener can pick up the word more faster. Next, we have priming, a phenomenon that exposes one stimulus and how a person responds to related stimulus. Word can be activated by hearing a semantically related words. There are 3 types of priming. The first one is form priming. The prime and the target have a similar orthography. For example, ball and bull. Next, we have morphological prime. The prime and the target have the same morphological structure. For example, sleep and sleeping. And lastly, we have semantic priming. The prime and the target have similar meaning. For example, speech and talk. That is all from us. Thank you for watching this video. Before you go, let's refresh our memory on speech perception mechanism. Scan this QR code to go to the quiz section.